Good evening and welcome to our live stream, our Thursday night live stream. 2 weeks in a row now. It's got to be a record for us, hasn't it? All right. We're trying to keep it regular and keep it relevant and regular, really. So welcome on to our show. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in last week, and thank you to everyone who joined our YouTube and joined our Instagram and Facebook. We've had a real big influx, so it's been really good to see. As I've sort of been saying at every show, really, the more you follow, the more you like, the more videos we can do, and then evidently our end goal is to bring you live events live from the venue. So your help is very much appreciated and very much needed. So thank you for tuning in again. For those that are tuning in for the first time, we're Southern Ghost Society. And this is our live stream. So what we sort of said last week, and those of you might have caught us before or caught glimpses of what we do, we've been doing sort of live shows on and off for about a year now, haven't we? Yeah. We did loads before, but since lockdown we've been trying to keep ghosting. We've been trying to do what we can and keep chatting ghosts and keeping ghosts and investigations relevant. It's been a really good time for us to be able to revamp our YouTube and revamp our videos and everything. And this is part and parcel of it, really. So what we're going to try and do is twice a week bring you our show. An hour and a bit, depending how interactive it's been and depending how much I'm talking, how much we're talking. But an hour a week on a specific subject. So we're going to look at venues, we're going to look at equipment, experiences, different types of techniques, just everything that's relevant in terms of ghost hunting, sharing our experiences with you, sharing the good and the bad of it as well. Like I said last week when we were chatting about EMF, we talked about natural EMF that has put us off and sent us on wrong tracks on investigations, but also how to look out for that and how to do sweeps and stuff like that. And tonight we're going to bring to you a show about a venue, and a venue that's local to us. A venue that's local to us. It's a venue that we've done quite a few times, 34 times. I've been reliably informed since 2010, and it's the venue Fort Widley. And hopefully some of you that are watching tonight have been there, or maybe you want to go there. And we're going to give you a bit of an insight this evening on Widley as a venue, what the venue entails, a little bit about the history, general hotspots that we find, how we set up, and then talk about our techniques we use there, but also then talk about our favourite experiences there. And then that leads on to our Saturday show, where we're going to bring to you the evidence that we've captured. And hopefully what we wanted to do from now, so get you guys thinking this evening, is what experiences you had there. Do you want to share them with us? Do you want to bring it to Saturday show? So we're going to bring you some evidence and bring you what we've captured and some of what we've claimed to be our best experience. Although what we've definitely found out tonight is Widley's quite a venue that's quite specific in terms of the sort of the phenomenon we capture, really, which we're going to go into a little bit later. So on tonight's show, we've got myself, Dan, and Lee. Hi. We've got Andy, we've got Hev, we've got Mary. So we've got Hev tonight. It's the first time joining us on a new format, although you might recognise her from either being on an event with us or previous live shows we've done. And the team will vary, hopefully, throughout the few weeks. And I think we're going to try and vary the team in terms of maybe experience and interest. So we'll go to a venue, if it's a venue where we've been to with other team leaders that have had more experiences there or can give a different view, then we'll link those guys in as well. We're plotting and planning, aren't we, some future shows, really. Yeah. But tonight's show is Fort Widley. So Fort Widley is a fort in Portsmouth. So we're a Hampshire-based investigation group. Fort Widley is I'm going to say this actually. Fort Widley is an event we probably take for granted. It's on our doorstep. We get really excited about going further afield and plotting our little away days and stuff. But Fort Widley, I always describe it when we do our openers as it's the perfect ghost venue, and it's
the perfect surroundings, isn't it? It's got the setup's just there. It gives you that. Walking down the tunnels, it just gives you the feel of...
Yeah. Definitely. I remember the first time going there, just walking in and thinking, wow, being a bit apprehensive about it. And I think that the first time we went there, I actually went on an investigation with another group, and it was all right, but you weren't running things, so it was a bit of bravado. But actually, when you got down in the tunnels and I'll go off my own, I'll do this, it was almost a bit like, oh, and then that dynamic completely changed when we started running events there, because then you think, I've got a team that are underground. They're really widespread. It's dark. It's damp. There's bats, possibly rats. There are definitely spiders. goats, there are spiders, there are all sorts of things to contend with, and I think it's probably one of the venues I wander quite a bit. I know I'm a bit of a wanderer anyway, but I always panic and think, where is everyone? Is everyone safe? And is everyone in their groups? And it's a really good venue. And like I said, tonight we're going to bring you overview of the venue, favourite techniques we use there, our favourite experiences there, and then we'll lead you on to the Saturday show, really. So, so Fort Widley, like I said, we've investigated 34 times since 2010, and it's certainly one that we'll be going back to probably within a few investigations, because it's local, it's close. We know they've got a lot of provisions in place for their COVID, for their sort of COVID regulations, so they're sort of playing ball with that as well. But it's also a really good venue where you're left to do what you want to do. Like once you've got set up and you've got the trust of the owners and so on, you are literally, once you open those gates, once you get the people inside and you lock those gates, you are alone. I know in the summer you've got the camping above, but the caretaker's there and she'll be there to oversee things if you need her. But you don't see anyone, do you, from start to finish? Whereas some venues you have a lot of influx of other people that are interested in what you're doing, but you really are alone. The moment you sort of finish the talk,
it's quite refreshing as well, isn't it? Yeah. We've gone to some venues where we've taken a small group, let's say like 12 to 15 people, and the guys running the event, setting up for us, have brought their own crowd of 10.
Yeah.
And it just makes life difficult, doesn't it?
It does, because you sort of think, I suppose, when you're setting up and when you book with us, we have a set amount of people that come along. And then what we also do is we spend probably Wednesday and Thursday talking through who's going to go with who, what teams we're going to be doing. That all changes on the night when I change my mind or someone else has a better idea. But I sort of probably sit, certainly the Wednesday and the Thursday, phoning up people. Hev, I always ask Hev, I always go, Hev, do you recognise this person? I might as well just give her a foreign name because she doesn't know anyone. And she's good at faces, right, but absolutely no good at names. So I'll even say to her, Hev, you remember? And she'll be like, no. And I'll be like, okay, we had this experience. So, and then she'll go, oh, okay. You actually know experiences, I think, better than people's names. So.
Yeah, it's a visual thing. Names just don't mean anything. Just so yeah. I suppose it's one of them where we do a lot of plotting and planning before, and then for another group to turn up or the owners to bring people along, it can be really difficult. So we are very lucky with that. There, we are left to our own devices, and I think that lends itself well to be able to control the noise. Want to control the noise, but to control the noise, but also to control the environment as well. So that's Widley as a venue. Now, those of you who have not been there, it's on Portsdown Hill. So Andy's going to go into a bit of the history at the moment, but in terms of the actual forts itself, if you know Portsmouth and Portsdown Hill, or you've ever driven from Southampton into Portsmouth, up on the left-hand side on Portsdown Hill, you'll see the forts. And as you move from Southampton through Portsmouth, you've got Fort Nelson, Fort Southwark, Fort Widley, Fort Pembroke, and they're the main ones on the top. But actually, it's part of a Palmerston Follies. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but there are actually 85 of these forts dotted around that were built to defend Britain, the British, the Irish, and the Channel Islands as well. And some of them, in terms of ghost hunting venues, that you might recognise that Vintage Boy is No Fort, Coalhouse Fort. You can investigate Fort Southwark, or at least underneath them with the D-Day tunnels. We had a good night. Yeah. That might have to be another show. Fort Widley and Fort Pembroke, and then Southsea Castle is part of that makeup as well. So that's Fort Widley, and I'm going to shut up because I end up talking too much and then going over Andy's history side of things. So I'm going to hand over to Andy now, who will talk about the sort of history. And you've also got the forts out in the Solent, which were part of the Follies as well. You've got No Man's Land, Horse Sand, and I can't think what the other one is. They're actually the fortifications out in the Solent as well.
Wasn't it?
So they're all part of the
I saw recently,
Spitbank,
like last week or so, that they're selling No Man's Land. It's actually a private house, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, yeah. I say Spitbank was developed to a posh hotel, basically.
One of them was a game show, wasn't it? A game show.
It was used. It was used for that. So yeah, that's all part of the Follies as well.
A company day actually in Spitbank before. That was a fun one. Running around the tunnels, you can hear the sound from one side of the fort all the way to the other because it's just this big circle. So I think those would be far more difficult to investigate.
Yeah, it was good entertainment. It was really good entertainment. Yeah. I reckon, yeah, I think they'd be difficult. They look so small as well, don't they? You talk about the tunnels, and when you look at the pictures of the one that was sold or the one that's trying to be sold, they look huge. They look. It's like a bit of a labyrinth in there, really. But never been over there, never investigated them.
It's
long old way to go to be caught out there, I guess.
Because you get all the seagulls and the ships going past and all sorts of things. So yeah, it'd be a difficult one to investigate.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'd
love to go and have a look around them, I guess. But, yeah, as well. Might contact them. But Andy, yeah, I suppose it'd be good to sort of talk about maybe the history and what people can expect when they go there and what they expect to sort of pick up, really. So, history-wise, then, mate.
Which meant that probably get those sound whatsoever then as well. Well, I'm going to go from where I am actually. So after the forts were built in 1860, they were used as an actual fort. So they were manned by soldiers for a period of time until they were actually disarmed in 1907, and were just used as barracks after that point. So they stopped being an active fort which was there for defence and started just being a place to bed down Royal Artillerymen. That continued for a while until it started being reused for different purposes. So in the Second World War it was used as a local control centre. So and some of the place now down there, you can still see all the World War II stuff which has just been left behind. And following on from the control centre, they also had some bomb disposal experts there who were based there and went out to dispose of bombs, because I think kind of most people locally in Portsmouth know there was a lot of bombs dropped during that period, and these guys went out and got rid of anything which hadn't exploded. Briefly, I found some references that it was used to house POWs, but not in a large capacity. And after the war, it was moved across to actually be a nuclear response centre. So they used that to stage and plan defences in the case of a nuclear attack, and because it's quite a good underground place, but don't think it really survived a direct nuclear blast, etc. Until they decided that it fulfilled its use as a military building, and then the council took it over in the 60s and has basically become council property from that ever since, really. The council used it for a while as an emergency centre as well, so they kind of continued on that use as a control centre, but stopped using that in the 90s, and then since then has been handed over a couple of times and is now an equestrian centre mostly.
And we roam around there.
And now we roam around there every night. Yeah.
It's certainly an interesting venue for that. I mean, I think the key thing to note is there was never really a shot fired in anger from there. So in terms of the sort of investigation techniques, which we're going to go on to in a minute, it's actually interesting that depending on what you pick up and how how you pick up there, trying to find that association. And I think that's a big part of how we investigate and when we start moving forward. But it's certainly a really good proper ghost hunting venue. I think, like I say, when you turn up, you've got the gates and the sort of main arch you go through.
You got the feel when you straight away.
Yeah.
I suppose, when you first take a group down, you go down the main long tunnel. It's got that little T thing or something.
Yeah, it's like a semicircle tunnel, isn't it?
Yeah,
which is there for avoiding going near the artillery store. You didn't go near where there was the ammunition around it. You went all the way around it if you were at a cigarette or something, probably.
You sure they didn't do it just for COVID?
Yeah. Their 2 metre rule was it had a 2 metre thick wall between people.
always find interesting as well, just further down on the left, that little tunnel that leads
really
off
tiny
to nothing.
one. A really tiny one. I've never been down there. I've never been down there. Has anyone been down there?
Yeah, I've spent a bit of time down there.
We used to send people down there on their own to do EVP work.
Did it last long?
No.
We've had some weird, interesting things down there with people sitting there with a voice recorder calling out, and listening, asking for knocks and bangs, and supposedly getting them.
Yeah.
I've had a few of my group come back a little bit shaken up and didn't want to go back down there on their own.
I think it's probably an area of the fort that's not massively used, like, because you've got the main tunnels and everyone wants to run.
It's a walkthrough, isn't it? We use it as a walkthrough, but yeah, I don't.
You get too much noise interference, don't you, from the other groups? That's the thing, because the noise carries so well down those tunnels. The moment you're in there, the other groups are going to hear what you're doing, so it's very difficult to try and isolate that area.
Yeah, also the way we set up is we go into 3 groups, don't we? So you go down the tunnels, you've got you've got the west tunnel.
Yeah.
You got the main sort of staircase in the middle, you've got your west tunnel, you go down, you've got downstairs, you've got 3 rooms down there. So you've got two rooms lead into one.
And then the one that shoots off, doesn't it, with like rooms there as well.
You got that, and you got upstairs, you've got the room above the one there, and you can lead out. You go through a couple of rooms, which leads you out to the outside bit.
We call it the arches, don't we?
The arches, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, again, we've had some strange things, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. One of my experiences happened up there, which we'll go to later.
Yeah, you can get to the playground from up there as well, so it leads outside. The other tunnel, so we have 2 groups down there, don't we? And we have the north tunnel, which again has 3 separate areas downstairs, 1 main room, which we always seem to set up in first, and a couple of rooms leading off, and upstairs is just 1 big room. And again, another staircase that leads out to some tunnels that lead off, which again could be quite interesting. Yeah. And that leads, again, up to where the ambulances and things are parked. And we've had some good, I don't know why I say it every time, we've had really good stuff everywhere. Yeah. Again, we've had good stuff in that area. But they're good separate areas, aren't there? There's another tunnel that we can no longer get in. No. Which is the east tunnel. That's been blocked up now, isn't it? That was used for fire, and
I think so. I think it was like fire rescue or fire training and stuff like that down that tunnel. I think that was high, but that's got a door on it now, and blocks off. Before it was open, so that's completely blocked off now. So again, then we got the rooms upstairs, which we use as another area, which is a bar. Probably one of my favourites. Yes, got to be. Got to be a great room up there. Always an interesting area, the bar, and you've got a main sort of hall room off of that. Brilliant for sitting down, calling out, and I think because of the noise down there and the tunnels and the wooden floor and stuff, we've always tried to set up, haven't we, where only once you get to the spiral staircase, we close that door, and then you've got 2 isolated tunnels. So then, as long as those 2 groups are communicating, and then the other group have the facility to use the sort of semicircle, the D tunnel, and then the rooms upstairs. That's what we've always sort of tended to set up, really, but.
You've got to be so careful there, just because noise travels so much. You could move a chair in one area and you'd hear it. We used to use walkie-talkies until they just don't work down there, do they? No, definitely. They're too thick. But yeah, we're forever sort of going backwards and forwards with groups saying, look, was that you guys? Did you do that? But just got to be mindful, haven't you, there, I suppose. But
yeah. But like Lee mentioned, like I said, with that area, we've picked up some good stuff there. But I suppose we look at, not to give too much away, and we'll always investigate everywhere, but we've almost give ourselves some hotspots in there, haven't we? Yeah, Mary, you're going to cover a bit of that as well, but we've almost got some, we call it hotspots, but actually some boils down to some of our favourite areas as well, doesn't it?
It's a real sort of crossover, because like you say, it's hotspots, but it's generally the favourite areas where we probably lean to because we get more activity, but and there might be sort of other people that sort of say, oh no, actually, I do get a lot more activity in a certain area. But in terms of that we cover, I mean, the bar area, I think, is sort of, I would say, a real favourite across most of us, just because of some of the experiences that we've got, and some of the sort of activity that's been there. For me, actually, down the main tunnel is a really good area of interest, because I've had quite a lot of experiences along the main tunnel, probably quite close to that small sort of turn off, but just sort of around that area. And then Dan, I think we've had a couple of sessions around the D tunnel where we've had some really good experiences as well. Then the other areas was for me the West Tunnel, but I guess Heather, you might sort of say that you might have more experiences downstairs than you do upstairs. But I know sort of certainly some of the experiences that we've had downstairs has then led us to sort of to the upstairs room.
Yeah, so it's almost like we warm the area up for you, isn't it? Yeah. Come back and then tell you, we could all did this, and then you go back in. And then
it round next time. But
you reap the rewards of our hard work.
Yes. I like the support act, that's what I am.
And then finally, I think, and this leads out of both tunnels, we've actually captured some real good footage. And I'm not going to spoil it because I think we're going to show it on Saturday. But round the battlements is sort of a real sort of keen area. So I think it's just above the arches maybe. But yeah, around that area, we've captured some real good evidence. But I don't want to spoil it because that's for Saturday's show. So. But yeah, so those are the main areas that we think is the hotspots, which it really does sort of cover a wide spectrum of the area. But like you say, we've been there so many times and we've got so many good experiences. It's hard to choose our favourites, isn't it?
Well, you're even there tonight, Mary. By the look at the application, that is.
I just can't stay away. I love it.
That's the new extension.
I got bored in lockdown, so what else do you do? Yeah.
A lot of people take up a hobby or something, but you've dug a tunnel. That's amazing. But that, like I said, I'd be interested to hear whether people that are watching at home that have been there before, whether you agree with our hotspots or whether you think there's somewhere else that we should be trying, or at least somewhere where you've experienced it as well. Because I think as a venue, you need to control how you investigate, and I think you really need to control how it all works. And we've sort of been there 34 times, so we've sort of got it down to a T where our sort of setup and stuff like that. I know Heavy, you're going to cover a bit of that now as well, but yeah, I think you have to really have your wits about you at Widley, because otherwise it's so big you could end up chasing your tail a little bit. But
yeah, well, I know when I first started, with you guys, and the first few times I went down there, I just completely got lost, which doesn't look good when the team leader can't find the way out back to the room. And I go, oh yeah, I just wanted to check this was still available for use or not, and just make up an excuse why I've taken a wrong turn, because it does get quite disorientated because the tunnels are very similar in appearance, aren't they? So yeah, it gets a little bit. So how we sort of set up when we get there. I said that the team leaders arrive. We set up the mess room. We get the tea station set up because it's all about priorities, isn't it? Good investigation starts with a good cup of tea. So that's the priority. Guests generally arrive about 8 o'clock, and I know Dan, you and I generally have the newbie groups. You touched earlier about you plan the groups. You know who's booked on as a family group or as a friends group. And we try and organise the teams into equal numbers. Each group's got 2 team leaders. So that facilitates us to actually look after the size of the group if they want to stay together, split the groups down so they can do lone investigations. And Lee, as you're saying, there's lots of different sub-areas off each of the tunnels. So if the groups want to split down, if I haven't yet seen a person come on for the first time and be brave enough to go, yeah, I'll do a lone investigation. It doesn't happen. We generally have the group as a whole, or they might split down into 2.
I haven't seen Dan do it in 34 times.
Hang on a minute, I've walked through there completely on my own with no thought.
I reckon you ran.
No, I have sent him back to get equipment that he's forgotten to pick up, so I can vouch you have walked the tunnels on your own.
I do get that dread when we used to have walkie-talkies. Someone used to go, Dan, can you come to I'm like, on my own? Like, you want me to walk on my own? They're the quickest tunnel walks.
Come on, we're going up there.
They're the quickest tunnel walks I've ever done. But yeah, sorry, Hev. Carry on.
No. I say, yeah, the format we have is a fairly generic format in the sense we investigate for about an hour and a half, have a tea break, investigate a different area, the second session, have a tea break, and then the third session is a different area. So with Widley, you've got the 2 tunnels, you've got the blockhouse. So whether you're a newbie, whether you're an experienced investigator, you get the opportunity to investigate the whole venue. I don't think, I've been there about a dozen times, and I think there are still areas that I haven't managed to investigate because it's so big. You know, you sort of, like Mary says, you have your hotspots, you know you're going to get something in there, and certainly with managing a newbie group, as we call it, people that have never been on an investigation, I think their expectations are quite high, and we want them to have a good time. So we'll go perhaps to the areas that we think, yeah, this is good for getting results. Let's start here. And once the momentum of the event starts taking over, you kind of don't want to leave it because you're getting good evidence. Why stop the evidence? So it's very difficult to actually investigate the whole of the venue on any given investigation.
The end of both the north and west corridors as well get investigated an awful lot, because after you've walked down that first tunnel, gone down the staircase, and then gone down to the other tunnel, you kind of walk quite a distance, and people think, right, I've been carrying these tables for quite a while and there's equipment. Let's investigate here. This list looks good to me. Let's start here.
Let's have a rest. Well, as Mary was saying, you know, we tend to sort of start downstairs because you have a little bit of a walk around, trying to almost get the group adjusted to the environment, because it is dark, it is a little bit creepy, and I don't want the group to be a little bit jittery. I want them to be quite calm in there and almost feeling safe in the environment, if you can, in a pitch black tunnel. You know, for somebody who's never been on an investigation before, they're already a little bit jittery, a little bit anxious maybe. And so we all know it's not a fright night. It's meant to be fun. It's meant to be informative. You know, and you're trying to fit in all the equipment as well, because the whole point of a newbie group is to demonstrate the whole kit box. So we've got rods, we've got boards, we've got the Franks box, we've got the K2, we've got the voice recorder, we've got the cat balls, we've got the motion sensors. And you've got to try and fit that into sort of 3 different sessions and mix it all up. And if something, you know, if something starts working in one area, that means you don't tend to dip into the kit box to get another piece of equipment out necessarily to break the investigation we've already started. So it's a little bit of a juggling act, but hopefully anybody, whether they've come on, you know, for their first investigation or whether they're seasoned investigators, will take away something from the evening. You know, the experience or an idea, or even just a curiosity of what it was that they've experienced that evening. Hopefully they'll come back. You know, if you have a bad experience, you're not going to want to repeat it. So from my point of view, I think, you know, certainly from Dan and I, we try to ensure that the investigations are good. You know, it's interesting, it's informative, everybody gets involved, we don't leave anybody out. And by the end of the evening, I'm absolutely shattered.
I've actually timed how long it takes to walk from the main tunnel down to the bottom of another tunnel, and it's roughly about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many steps?
I didn't count.
It's steps these days, isn't it?
But no, so it's certainly, I think that setting up at Widley is paramount. So I think that some of our best ever experiences, when we've really invested our time in decking ourselves in, using as much different equipment as possible, and really sort of sitting down and I suppose giving it time. Like I say, sometimes you just sort of think, right, I've walked this far now, 4 minutes or whatever. Sometimes too long, does it? No. You walk for 4 minutes, you're sitting down, you sort of bed yourself down. But I think we're really strategic in how we do it as well, because like I say, the wooden floors upstairs, it makes sense to set yourself downstairs, doesn't it? Because you've got, you can the steps above, you can monitor more areas really. But
and also something like that can make the group a little bit jumpy. We would expect, there's half the group upstairs. We know we're going to hear footsteps, but I think, you know, if it's your first investigation and suddenly you start hearing footsteps above you, your first thought doesn't go, that's the other half of the group, or, oh, that's just Dan. Your first thought is, what was that? And that makes you jumpy, and then you get that little mild hysteria kind of creeping through the group, and they all start getting jumpy, and then the lights are out, and somebody will bump into somebody else, and the next thing you know, the whole group is sort of screaming and ready to run for the exit. And it's trying to do sort of damage limitation so that doesn't happen. So, you know, Mary, when we're in that area, we tend to stay downstairs. So fill your boots with upstairs. Like I say, with the supporting act, warming it up, you know.
That's fine. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of venue, I'm really interested to see, like, you guys at home tonight, whether you're watching this back and you want to share your experiences from now until Saturday, and we'll start to read them out. But really interested to see what you guys have caught at home, whether you have some hotspots, because it's certainly a venue we'll be going back to, I reckon, quite soon, or as soon as we can, you know. So I know we're sort of chatting on Facebook at the moment. I know that there's Nikki sort of shared her experiences of the tunnels and stuff. So it's yeah, there's loads of those sort of different experiences. I think we've all got our own sort of way of doing it, really. I've been rudely looking down at my phone, but I'm really interested to see the stories that you've got. And like I say, where it's a local venue, we're probably sort of casting the net a bit wide, because we probably think that a lot of people have been there, and if not been there, will want to go there, really. But Nikki was sort of saying on Facebook that across the parade yards of the tunnel, which we find really active, said that you think it's Widley. They do blend into one. I think the difference between the two, which are easy to do, I think that Widley is the one with the central staircase with the tunnels off, and then Purbrook, which you can investigate as well, has the separate tunnel. So you're quite separate, aren't you? You go down the main tunnel, and then there's another one that shoots off, and so on. Whereas Widley's a bit more on top of each other. Yeah. You know, I think Purbrook, you can lose yourself a little bit more with sound. They're quite deeper tunnels. But when I asked what are the experiences there, knocking on request, dark shadows, REM pod, activity in the tunnel around the parade yard, which I know we're going to go on to in a bit as well, which is really good to hear. And then the entrance is bright spark, visible to the eye, and spirit box activity. You know what? We've got that and some, I guess. I think that it's really what I love about these shows and love about doing these shows and the plotting and planning for these is that you take it a bit for granted, and then when we sit back and review, you really find out, actually, do you know what? Do you remember this? What happened? And then you actually gain that excitement about wanting to go back there. And I think that's where we are with Widley at the moment, really. And just going back through the footage and just discussing how we're going to position this show and on to Saturday's show, it definitely ignites the spark, doesn't it, about going back there. So we sort of talked about how we set up and how we're going to be setting up, and the sort of history and overview and what we like to do. We've also got some sort of favourite techniques we use there as well, and techniques that have, over the 34 times, I guess, probably better latter than the probably investigation 1 to 10. I reckon probably 15 to 30. We've got better. We're like a fine wine. I was going to say fine cheese. We were trying to say. we are like a fine wine that we're sort of getting better with age. And of late, certainly in the last probably 10 investigations there, we've really started to tailor our techniques to specific things that we tend to see generate activity, and we'd like to share them with you tonight, really, about what we try. Maybe you've tried these, or maybe there's something you can go and try next time you're there. But one of them is music, and Andy, I'm going to hand over to you to talk about what you do with the music side of things there.
The music's actually quite interesting. I've been using trigger music in a few different locations with different levels of success, but with Widley, I found some Victorian marching music and some songs which are a little bit older than that, but still were kind of used in the time. And I've played that in different locations around the fort. Sometimes one thing I quite like doing is kind of warming up an area using that music, building a bit of atmosphere, kind of sharing something that might be familiar to anyone who's there. And a few times I've played like a marching band music as we're kind of going as a group down the corridor to an area, just to kind of just get that sort of that feeling. And one of the times I was doing that, I was walking down the corridor, we set up the equipment, and then changed to something else, changed to something that was more sort of civilian-y, and started getting some REM pod hits. And we started using those REM pod hits, which, in case you don't know, the REM pod is a device which just measures energy in the air and then tells you when it picks it up, basically. and it was starting to kind of respond in yes and no with, do you want to listen to more music? Which music do you prefer? And we ended up playing more military music because the answers were kind of more on that. And as we were listening to that military music, the REM pod was literally going off in time with the beat. I think it was the Colonel Bogey song, actually. I think it was like that one, and that was impressive because that felt like a real connection there. I could start whistling, but it sounded really horrible through people watching it. But but yeah, that felt like a real connection. Everyone in the kind of that group at that point really kind of felt part of that moment. Like someone was there, they were interacting with it, they enjoyed it, they recognised something that they knew. And I think that's quite good to kind of try and make those sort of connections. And Fort Widley's been pretty good for that.
We also, do you remember the time when we were in what we call the bar area upstairs, and we were almost the group I was with were using a board, and they were sort of communicating. And then you were playing the music, weren't you? And then we had REM pod and the K2 hits, and then we played a song, and then the lady who they were talking to said that she'd danced, that she remembers dancing to that song and stuff like that. So There's a real connection between the two. And the REM, we were having hits on the K2 and the REM pod, and it was a really active evening in there, really. So
in that bar room, we were playing things which made a bit more of a party atmosphere, and we were kind of saying, did you dance to that, etc. And I think that kind of helped build activity. So it's something that kind of helped generate it and get attention really to what we were doing.
I suppose it's like a human nature. It's a common connection, isn't it? They can relate to it, and they realise that we're relating to it as well. So it's sort of like a common connection. It's almost like a confidence, isn't it? They realise that actually we're not there to do any harm. We're engaging with them on a level that they remember or they recognise. So. Yeah.
You've got lots of things. We sort of go in there as a group, probably 6 and then a couple of team leaders, or depending on what sort of night it is, and maybe hopefully less than that. And we're bringing out all manner of beeping equipment and flashy balls and touch this and do that, and I'm going to reword that a lot better.
Sorry, that's live.
Move this and knock this and bang this and do this and perform this. We're actually, we do a lot of explaining about how the equipment works and try and bring it into the real world. But actually, playing a piece of music, sometimes it's just priceless, and sitting there and listening. And that brings me on to the next bit, really, in terms of how we sort of go there. And I think it's been really apparent with Fort Widley, and it's become even more apparent when we've been looking back through our footage. When we've done other shows before, we've been able to pull out 10 different videos of stuff that's gone on there, really. But actually, for Fort Widley, we've actually started to ascertain that quite a lot of our activity we've got there is audio. So quite a lot of the stuff that we've got is recorded on a voice recorder or maybe sort of a camera that that Andy or Beth are carrying around, or one of the team are carrying around. But it's really audio that we're sort of picking up there, really, be it knocks and sounds and just stuff with the equipment, isn't it? Really, we found that quite a lot.
We've had a lot of stuff that we haven't recorded but heard.
Yeah, definitely. We've had a few things happen, haven't we, on the breaks and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's an exception, actually. That Nikki brought up earlier, which we were starting to see the sort of start of 2020, 2019, and 2019, and that was the bright lights. So I think we had a couple of different teams who were down that kind of that first room, and they were seeing these lights quite near them, and that was quite interesting because we'd never, in all the other years we've been there, seen anything like that at all. And then suddenly, on several investigations, several different teams were all seeing those things.
Yeah. I know when Nikki put on there about the lights and stuff, I know that we were in the bar. I think we caught like a green light that was like above our heads while they were doing the boards and stuff. So we've had a bit of that, haven't we, recently? But not something we've managed to capture. It's all been personal experiences, hasn't it? So difficult to bring to you that evidence when someone's saying it's either a personal experience or someone's experienced it as a group, but we've not got the camera pointing in that direction. Typical Most Haunted. No, joking. But yeah, from an audio point of view, which is rare for me to say, but we find some of our best activity comes when we sit down, shut up and listen. And it's a case of bedding down the equipment, bedding down the audio, asking questions and asking questions that are quite general. And I know that it's been really interesting because interested in a frustrating way, actually, because we've sort of ascertained last night that I'd been investigating, or myself and Heather have been investigating a bit of a different style due to information we found out that clicked with Mary this week or
moment.
So that's a typical, I think, a lessons learned thing that we need to start sharing what we do as a team. But we started to ask more general questions because the fort had never fired a shot in anger, which means the deaths would be limited due to war or due to battle. And we were trying to ascertain where are we getting this activity from, and where are we getting, where the names come through. And automatically, I think in the beginning we were going, what regiment were you in? Were you stationed here? Were you a prisoner here? Were you this, that, and the other? But actually, we were getting no's and no's and no's. Then the activity would go on a board, or we would almost like asking the wrong questions, or certainly not asking the right questions really, and trying to drill in, and probably getting bored of us just talking at them. So we've asked quite a lot more general questions at the moment, such as, is this your first time here? And it sort of became apparent from a sad situation, really. I was at the QA hospital, being a Southampton lad. Don't shout that out much around Portsmouth too much, but being a Southampton lad, that was not my hospital. So having visited there for one or two times, it wasn't apparent how close that is to Fort Widley. And a lot of times when myself and Heather are asking the question, is this your first time here, we're getting a yes. Now we're thinking, okay, but is that because you're visiting someone here who was stationed at the fort? Quickly, our questions would go back to someone in the army, someone being stationed there, Navy or whatever it was. Where actually, when we start to tailor our questions to where are you from, are you local, we're finding out that actually the spirit or the person we're talking to has no connection to Fort Widley at all, but actually the vicinity of Fort Widley and maybe on the land before, or maybe from the hospital. We're actually getting quite a lot of a good response with that at the moment. And I know, Mary, I'll let you carry on with what you sort of found recently, but it was only yesterday when we started talking about, I've been doing that for ages, sort of thing, but trying to ask more sort of general questions. But yeah, I'll let you sort of explain.
Mine was just sort of from the other side. It probably is about a year ago that I had one of the sort of the strongest board sessions that we've ever had in Widley. We were getting a lot of information come through, and it was a gentleman. He was in the Navy, but he was from the 1800s. We got his name, we got the ship he was serving on, real lots of information. And the question was asked, sort of how did you arrive here? And it said by hospital. And I've always been struggling with that, because I was like, I've researched whether Widley was, became a hospital, perhaps in the history, or whether any bodies were stored there as a morgue, perhaps. And I just couldn't find anything. And then yesterday, while I was reviewing some more footage actually, and sort of started to do a little bit more research, and it dawned on me, and very similar to you, I've been in the hospital a few times, and remember looking out at a window, looking at this strange building up on the hill, and this was before I sort of came down to Portsmouth. And then years later, realised it was Widley. And then, yes, I had the eureka moment of, oh, the hospital's really close to Fort Widley. What we've actually found out is sort of the area of Cosham and Queen Elizabeth Hospital is connected to the MOD hospital as well. So it's Portsea Hospital, I think it's called. So I think there's a connection from the hospital, from the land around, and maybe Widley is sort of the closest place that they can relate back to. So so it was interesting for us to sort of share that experience. But it's good that we've kind of come to the same conclusion separately, though, isn't it?
There's only 21 years and 34 times of it. I think never, I'd say, on that one. Do you reckon?
A few more events, yeah.
We need to get the team meetings started, come up regularly, because that's sort of things we on. But yeah, I think it's certainly. Nikki just said again that had similar experiences with people. I think it's a activity that doesn't have to be directly connected to the area. And I think we're quite good in our questions and stuff, but certainly there we've started to tailor our questions around who's there and why they're there, and I think that leads on interesting to one of your experiences we're going to talk about in a minute, don't we? But we've actually had the experiences that one of your best experiences is nothing to do with the army or anything like that. Really, what inadvertently probably is, but yeah, so it's good. Love you sharing it. So anyone else is watching at home that wants to comment, it's really good. Like we're sort of saying an experience we've had, and then it's been sort of validated at home really from your own personal experience as well. So love to hear that, and love to sort of see what any more comments out there. Anyone else watching, let us know what you've experienced at Fort Widley. And like I say, if you've got any evidence that you want us to have a look at or you want to show, then definitely sort of try and get that to us, or at least contact us on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll have a little bit of a review for you. So talking about experiences, then this is like probably part of the show that we could do a whole show on in itself, really. But Fort Widley, let's look at Fort Widley in general. What is let's go around the room and look at our best experience there. So, Kev, what's your most favourite experience that's happened at Fort Widley?
Probably one of the most amusing, because again, with newbie groups, it's very difficult. I don't get to do too much in-depth investigating because there's too many things to actually sort of get involved with. But I remember one event, we were in the left tunnel and we'd set up the motion sensors actually a little way inside the tunnel, but either side. So the motion sensors are, just like the sensors that if somebody breaks the little infrared beam, the alarm sounds off. And I don't like the really loud alarms. I like the little chiming doorbells because I think it's a little bit of a less threatening sound, and perhaps one that more people could relate to. So we'd had the motion sensors set up in the tunnel with a few cat balls, and we were just round the corner, just out of sight of that. So it's an audible thing. The cat ball, obviously, when it flashes up and you're in the pitch black, you can see a sort of subsidial glow. You don't have to be looking at it directly to know the cat ball's been activated. So those were sort of out of sight little sensors set up. So we're doing a board session, and one of my questions is to how many spirits or ghosts have we got with us, sort of around us. And I think it was something like there were I don't know if it was 11 or 12 ghosts actually in this area with us. So we've got the team of, I think it was 5 on the board, plus another 3 sort of stood around watching. And then you've got another however many ghosts around us. And then the motion sensor went off. So Dan went off, had a little look and went, oh, yeah, the cat ball's going off, the sensor's gone off. So reset the motion sensor, went back. So we went back to the board and I said, was that one of the spirits that's just set the sensor off? And I got the reply of yes on the board. And I said, so how many spirits are there now? And it was 1 less from the original number. So we carried on with it. And then the sensor went off again. And I said, how many spirits have we got now? And again, it was 1 less. And Dan would go off, reset the sensor to make sure it was not faulty. And then it carried on as we were. The sensor goes off again. We've got 1 less on the spirit. And it was this sort of like little, almost like a cat and mouse thing. That they're just sort of like, there were 10 green bottles sitting on the wall, and then 1 went, and then there's 9, and then 1 went, and then there's 8, and then 1 went, and there's 7. And it was just quite amusing for the group. It's sort of our social sort of interaction and chatting with the board and interacting with the equipment that we had set up. So, yeah, for an actual session, that was really quite amusing, really, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, it was real. I think the whole group were in.
Get your steps up as well, didn't it? Get your bending down.
Yeah, all good.
Get your steps up. Yeah.
But it was just so good. And reset them. You start to think it wasn't kept going off. There's nothing natural that could have caused that. Really, the batteries were new in there and didn't go off for the rest of the night, did they? We were the group was so hoping that there's going to go off for the rest of the day. It just stopped there. And I think that validates it more that these things sit there. And they were really cool. Lucky enough, I think I've been involved in sort of 3 of the 5 of these stories, but that's amazing to witness. I really enjoyed that one.
Good fun.
Your one, then. I love this one.
Yeah, my one. Were you with me the first time round with the board?
All the time round. Every one I've been in there.
So yeah, this was upstairs in the bar area, and the first time, I don't want to say the names because it gives. Reckon?
Yeah, that's not. Do you reckon?
No, don't need to. So, in the bar area. And the first time round, doing a board, again, trying to think
trying to ask who we're speaking to, army personnel, things like that. We're getting no. We were speaking to a female, and name come through, how she died, literally quite a bit of information. You know, I don't want to go into it's really struggling.
Basically, what she did there and how she passed away.
Yeah, so what she did, her job, everything like that. So I thought, yeah, brilliant, wrote it down. And it must have been about 2 years later. Again, probably been there 6 or 7 times, probably more in the meantime. Upstairs with a group, this time on the rods.
Yeah.
Again, the guys are asking the questions, assuming they're speaking to army personnel. Came through female. And then we got asking questions, how she died, given sort of different answers. Again, completely correct, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Everything we got that time, and I think we've had it again on the board up there. And the same stuff again, same name, same age, same death.
Same occupation, which you wouldn't guess from the fort. So
we don't publish all this, so it's not like somebody, and it's all newbies that come on. It's never been the same person. Not one person has been in that group that I've taken again a few years later. So to guess that it just doesn't happen, does it? So that for me, and boards and rods are not my favourite piece of equipment. So for that to be, that's wowed me there. And like I say, I won't give the names away because we haven't published it yet. And hopefully again, next time if we get something similar again,
the same name, same profession.
Yeah, it was just
I think it was 3. We've spoken to this person 3 times, 4 years apart. So it was basically
completely different groups.
Which is which is the only common denominator, me and you, and we don't touch the rods, or we haven't got our finger on the glass, so we're not even directing that really. So that's amazing. That's one of my favourite experiences there, really. Andy, what's yours, mate?
Mine actually is also something that happened a few times as well, which kind of makes it interesting. So my girlfriend Beth and I were up on the battlements, which are at the top level between both the north and the west tunnels, and we were walking along. And Beth said, I'd like to stop here and do a little bit of a kind of calling out session on my own. So I left her standing there for a while. I walked to the other end of the battlements, and then came back, and she said, I've just had someone standing here. And I said, what happened? She said, well, I heard someone walking up towards me, and then they stopped. And then I said hello, and then I heard them walking off again. I thought, that sounds amazing. So we checked the audio as soon as I got home, downloaded it at 3 a.m. And so you could hear these footsteps walking up to her. So next time we went, I went all out. I brought a parabolic dish, I brought about 5 audio recorders, and we just decked out that entire battlement just to see if we can catch it again. And, well, long story short, I didn't at that point. What happened at the end of the night, though, is when we were going around to break down kit, went back up on my own, went up to the parabolic dish to switch it off, and then I heard someone coming up behind me. I thought, that's interesting, because normally when I break down kit, I'm generally on my own. So I turned around to see who it was and say hi, and there was no one there. And as I turned, the footsteps sped up, and I could see a little bit of the grass moving as well. And then they stopped. And I was like, oh! And then nothing else happened, so I packed the kit away and took it back, and then listened to the audio, and it sounded very similar. In fact, it sounded oddly like someone was walking on gravel. And if you've been up there, the battlement's kind of overgrown, and underneath the fire step, the concrete step by the edge of the parapet, it's all just grass. So Dan contacted the curator for the place. And apparently, back in the Victorian era, when it was actually used as a battlement, that piece of ground was actually all shingle, so it was used to march up and down. So that was very exciting. And since that point, when we've just been standing up there quietly, because we go up there every investigation and try and spend as long as possible up there, caught it 2 times since then. Once on my own, and the second time with just a society member who was along and was interested in standing up there. So it's quite interesting to go to a place and get the same thing so many times, and so clearly recorded as well. it's very interesting, and historically we've looked into it, and there are potential reasons or people to focus on when calling out, and we've tried that since then, and that doesn't seem to have much of an impact. So I'm not entirely sure if what we were witnessing was actually aware we were there. It could be something that was residually recorded as opposed to something intelligent that's stopping where I am. It could just be that I was always standing in the same spot in order to try and hear it, and that's why it always sounded like it was walking up and stopping. But yeah, that's definitely one of my favourite experiences anywhere, really, because it was so repeatable, and I've caught it a few times.
I think what I love about that story, and once we listened to the footsteps, and once we sort of really ascertained they were on shingle or stone, or certainly not on the material or the grass that's there now, I can't, like Andy said, I can't have the curator of the probably more the local historian of Widley, and it's got a website and stuff, and I sort of positioned ourselves that we're a group of investigators and this is what we do, and I didn't say. I said, may I ask? May I ask what would have been on the ground, on the parade ground? And honestly, the response I got back was, it's not a parade ground. It's called the parade, and it would have been shingle. So actually, there was no. I didn't say we've caught footsteps. I didn't say any of that. I asked purely what the ground would have been, not to lead any questions or anything like that. And the response was real sharp and sort of short. Come back to me, but. Yeah, it was amazing. As soon as I did that, I just sort of pinged it straight to it. I said, listen, validates exactly, It would have been easier if I'd have said, listen, we've caught footsteps. It sounded like on gravel. What do you think? And if that was to someone who was interested in ghost hunting, they could have just said, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. But it was a historian not interested in what we did at all. Didn't even, like, normally, I think if you'd have spoken to another ghost group, they'd have gone, well, what did he capture? Is that right? There was no interest. It's not called a parade ground. It's called a parade. And it would have been shingle. Kind regards. So actually, I loved it, and I don't think I responded to that. I think I said thank you, and that was it, because just validated what we exactly what I wanted to do.
A really strange question.
But, really strange. But yeah, that was it really. So then, Mary.
Yes.
Favourite experience.
Favourite experience, yeah. So mine is actually down the main tunnel, and it was. I was setting up actually, and I walked down to the end of the tunnel, closed the door so that we stopped the noise contamination. But I thought, while I'm down there, I'll put a cat ball there. There was a little ledge, sort of by the door, and it's right on the wall. So I placed the ball there. You couldn't physically get behind the ball. So I walk all the way back up to the sort of halfway up the main tunnel where the rest of the group are. And by the time I've got up to the rest of the group, the cat ball's gone off. And I turn round so quickly because I'm a little bit annoyed that someone's moved it so quickly, but then I see someone bending down, like a dark black shadow of a figure of a person bending down, touching, moving the ball. And so it was so quick. I was just a little bit annoyed that they'd done it so quickly. But yeah, I then sort of asked the rest of the group what did they see, and they saw exactly the same thing from the other side of the angle of the tunnel. And yeah, it was because that tunnel is so dark. When a cat ball goes off, as Heather said right at the beginning, it's gone off, and it was so bright. But yeah, so that was probably one of my memorable experiences there. I've got lots of others that I could probably share, but I don't think we've got the time.
Now's the time that you're going to tell a ghost story.
Left me any time.
Yeah, I know. I should really do that.
So, I'll try and be as quick as I can, really. I've got probably 3 favourite experiences, but it's difficult because I think, and they both of them happened when we were either setting up or we were on a break. And I'm going to go for 2. So the first one was we were looking at the west tunnel And we used to put our static cameras down there. So we used to put there's plug sockets in the middle of the staircase. So we used to put a TV down there and our static cameras, and we used to shoot 1 or 3 of each tunnel really when the tunnels were open. And what that night we were putting the tunnels, we used to fix them to the fittings. So they used to shine right the way along the tunnel. We had the lights on, and me and Lee were sort of fitting up, and I think Dave was helping, and Simon was down there. And as I fixed the camera, I could see a silhouette of someone standing literally in the threshold of the tunnel down the bottom. I remember saying to Lee, "Is someone down there?" And it's a long way to go. I said, "Listen, we need to," I sort of tried to point out what I saw, but literally at the end of the tunnel there was someone down there. So much so I thought someone's in there. And that's my biggest worry about Widley, really, that someone's broken in or whatever. So I sort of got another ladder and we sort of ran or walked quickly, didn't we, right the way to the other tunnel, and there was no one there. Now, granted, if it was a human or if it was someone that was actually there and broken in, they had lots of time to get away. But we looked, didn't we, in every tunnel, and actually we went up the stairs. We were at the west, and when we came along to the gate at the top, that gate was locked. Yeah. So actually, that person either remained in the tunnel all night, undetected, or
100-foot drop.
Yeah, or gone over the 100-foot drop, or it was paranormal. Honestly, I mean, but the problem is we were just setting the cameras up, so we had nothing on at all. All the equipment was upstairs. We were just setting up. And then the last time, one of my favourite sort of funny stories, really, we had a person on the event that was a bit disruptive. So Simon and Dave had this gentleman in their group. So I was really keen to see how he was interacting, because just a few issues on previous events, and so give a second chance sort of situation for him. So on the first break, I said to Dave, grab yourself a coffee, and Simon, grab a coffee. We're going up to one of the rooms. Just want to let give me sort of a backstory how it's gone. So we sort of set the worlds to rights and sort of let me know. As we were walking out, I led, and then Dave was in the middle, and my mate Simon was behind, or team leader Simon was behind, and he has a bald head, and which is relevant to the story. But as we walked out, all I heard was like a slap. So I turned round, and Simon's holding the back of his head.
I remember hearing it.
And we just laughed. No, he was like, "Who hit me?" We were like, "No, there's no one behind you." But there was a group having a cigarette, because we were on a break just in the smoking area at the top. And the girl shouted out, "Who just hit Simon?" And we were like, "No one." No, there was no one behind him. But literally, he said he felt like a slapstick do, where they sort of tap on the head, tap on the head. But you heard the slap, and then groups were having a cigarette. We were on a break, but literally sort of like cuffed him on the back of the head. It happened there, didn't he? Like lots of personal paranormal stuff that happened there. I know that when he went to take a photo as well, we were down in the tunnel. We had some news gilets, so we wanted to take some photos for the website, and we stood there. And Simon was quite a big lad and relatively brave. He didn't really bother about things like that, really. No. He stood in sort of the threshold of the tunnel, and me and Lee stood there, sort of arms folded with our new sort of ghost photos and stuff. And Simon then said, didn't he, where shall I stand? And all of a sudden, we didn't see it. He just hurtled towards us, like we were probably 10 foot back from him, and he just.
I think he went 10 foot in the air.
It was like a Scooby-Doo moment. I think we sort of caught him and we shaking it. And he said, the moment that he said, "Where shall I stand?" a voice in his ear said, "Here." But we didn't hear it, did we? He was the only one to experience it. But the terror on his face, and it was just white, wasn't it? And obviously having the bald head as well. But he was just pale, and it was another one of those experiences where, again, you believe what he said for the sheer terror in his face. But sort of three things happened off camera, no equipment, all during the break, which is frustrating, but something that will live with us for a long, long time. So we're coming to the end of the show. 9:10. I know we started a little bit later tonight.
It's gone really quick.
It's gone really quick. I reckon we could speak about. We'll have to do 2-hour shows, I think. We'll have to do longer shows. But as we said, guys, this show is nothing without you. So the interaction tonight has been amazing. We've had a few people sort of commenting and giving their experiences there, or people commenting about that stuff. So keep them coming. Now, as you know, Saturday show is going to be about bringing the footage to you. So we're going to work on. I'm not. Andy and Mary are going to work in the background and looking at the footage we got. Obviously, I'm going to help you as well. I did review them, actually, the stuff you sent through. So what we're going to do, we're going to piece some of our best experiences together. Sadly, none of mine what I read out, but the footstep story that Andy said we've got that on an audio and a video, so that'll be brought to you. But they're going to sort of put together 2, 3, depending on if you interact with us and you've got anything you want to show as well. But a couple of experiences we've had that we've been able to bring to you to validate what we've been chatting about tonight. But from now till then, Thursday to Saturday, if you're watching this back, send in your footage. Send in, comment and let us know whether you've had some experiences, whether the stories tonight we've told it's happened to you, or you've got any footage to share with us. We'd be really interested to know. Or if you think that we've listed some hotspots that we may be missing out on an area, or may not sort of be considered an area because we've not had too much there, let us know. Or a technique that you use. Is there a technique that you use there, or is that a technique that you use somewhere else? Then let us know, really. But yeah, it'd be great to hear your stories. Saturday night we're coming on at 7 o'clock. It's going to be minus us two. We're not on the show, so it might be actually people get the opportunity to talk. And yeah, but we're not on the show, so it'd be Hev, Mary, and Andy on the show, and they're going to be talking through the experiences and showing you what we've seen, and really give you a feel of how we've captured it and how it was captured, and yeah, give us your view on what you think, really. But this is my children in need moment, really. We want to evidently bring to you our shows live at venues, and we can't do that without raising our following on YouTube. So if you watched it tonight and you like what you see, share the video, like the video, but also, more importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need to get 1,000. We're about 800 away at the moment, but it's building, and like I said, the more regular these become, the better it become, and we're getting sort of followers each day, really. But it's a new YouTube channel with loads of new footage on there that we're talking about everywhere we've been. Well, most places we've been with most good footage we've got there. We'd love to see your views on our existing videos, but give us a like, give us a follow, give us a share, and we'd love to bring you live from a location. We're going to do these twice a week, so Thursday night and Saturday night. So you'll see hopefully some regular faces, but some new members of the team. I know we're sort of busy plotting and planning where we're going to go on a venue for the rest of the year, but we're also busy plotting and planning what sort of shows we're going to bring to you. If there's a venue you'd like us to bring to you, or if there's a topic you'd like us to talk about, then chuck it at us. Let us know. I'd love to do. I'm happy that the next show we do is about a topic that you're interested in, or a topic that you want us to talk about, or maybe it's a venue or a piece of equipment or a technique, or let us know what you'd like us to chat about, and we'll do our best to bring that to you. But it's been amazing. Like, follow, share us, and we'll speak to you Saturday, and subscribe, and we'll see you Saturday. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your evening.